their seat. Thank you very much. Hello everyone, bonjour, bienvenue dans notre salle de presse pour notre réunion de midi. Nous sommes le lundi 25 septembre et je suis heureux de vous revoir après quelques semaines d'absence. So, as you heard from Dana last Friday, today we are glad to welcome a new colleague for the SPP, whom I will ask to join me on the podium. His name is Olaf Gil, and as of today he will be the new spokesperson for trade and agriculture in replacement of Miriam. Now, Olaf has extensive experience both on trade and agricultural issues, and he will be available as of today, along with our press officers, Anna Apse and Sophie Dirven. We've had a few changes, departures, returns, new faces, so please check out our website for the new team on the agri and trade side. Olaf, a few words.
Merci Eric, je suis très content de rejoindre cette belle équipe. Good afternoon, good eftermiddag, mina damer och herrar. My name is Olaf, Swedish-Irish. I've been covering Commission comms in trade and agri for the past 9 years, so I know the subject matter a little bit. Many of you I know from my previous roles. I look forward to getting to know the rest of you. And I'm happy to answer questions in English, French, Svenska, or even Irish if necessary. So to conclude, let me wish you all a very happy EU Organic Day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was short and sweet. I'm told he speaks Swedish with a very strong Irish accent. We will have to let our Swedish colleagues check that. Okay. Now, that being said, let us move on to the substance of today's midday briefing, and I call on Verle, who has an announcement to make on an InvestEU project.
Hello everyone. Indeed, today we have great news to announce on the InvestEU program and our green transition. Backed by InvestEU, the European Investment Bank has approved up to 1.7 billion for some 120 new solar power plants to be built in Spain, Italy and Portugal. This will provide clean energy corresponding to the average annual demand of about 2.5 million households, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by an expected 3 million tonnes of CO2 a year, and creating around 11,100 jobs during the construction phase. This is a great example of how the InvestEU programme meaningfully supports the EU's green transition and its energy independence and security of supply, by working together with implementing partners like the EIB to mobilise private and public funding. More information is available in our daily news and a joint press release.
Thank you very much, Verle. Permettez-moi maintenant de vous rappeler qu'un conseil compétitivité est en cours aujourd'hui dans son format marché intérieur et industrie. Le commissaire Thierry Breton et la commissaire Stella Kyriakides y participent au nom de la Commission. Les ministres discutent de la révision des règles sur la protection des dessins, ainsi que des normes en matière d'émissions et de durabilité des batteries pour les véhicules, aussi connus comme Euro 7, sous le nom Euro 7. Les ministres échangent également sur la proposition visant à donner aux consommateurs plus d'outils pour se protéger contre les pratiques et les informations mensongères en matière de transition écologique. Ils discutent enfin de la législation pharmaceutique européenne et du futur du marché unique dans le cadre de son 30e anniversaire. Une conférence de presse est prévue à la fin de la réunion aux alentours de 16h20 et le commissaire Breton y présentera les résultats de cette réunion. Nous vous demandons donc de garder vos questions sur ce sujet pour cette conférence de presse. Finally, before starting with your questions, let me point out that we will have to wrap up the midday today at 12:30, since we then have a press point with Commissioner Vălean and the Ukraine Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Kubrakov that you're invited to follow in the VIP corner. That is all for announcements today. Happy to move on to your questions. Yes, please.
Tomasz Bielecki, Deutsche Welle, Gazeta Wyborcza. Last weekend, both German Chancellor and Minister of Internal Affairs indicated that Germany is considering the reintroduction of border controls between Germany and Poland and the Czech Republic. So I have a question if the European Commission has been consulted on that and what is assessment of the migratory situation in Poland, Czech Republic in the context of the pressure on Germany.
Thank you, Tomasz. Question for Anita.
Thank you very much. We need to check in terms of the notification. I have not seen anything coming by now. We will not comment on any of the comments, but let me reiterate our long-standing position on this. The reintroduction of border controls must remain exceptional and strictly limited in time and as a measure of last resort. We're in touch with member states. We have also launched a formal consultation this May to see what are the challenges and to ensure that we have common solutions.
Thank you. Any other questions on this topic for Anita? On this? Go ahead.
Hello, Andrzej Werwiński, Polsat News. Do you have any data that confirm this growing migratory pressure?
I'm not sure about which migratory pressure you refer to, but yes, throughout all the routes throughout last year and this year, we have seen increases. This fluctuates as well, we need to be alert. This is why we're working with all member states. We have put forward operational measures in place, be it on the Central Mediterranean, but also the Western Balkans. So we're working on all operational challenges to see how we best support member states.
Anita's comment, as I understand, concerned the situation when it comes to migration to the EU in general, not specifically to one particular or two particular borders. Any other questions for Anita on Schengen? Je t'en prie, David.
Yes, thank you. It's not strictly on this issue, but on migration and internal policies of migration. Two questions, if I may. This weekend we have assisted to some exchange from the Italian government and the German one on the fact that Germany is financing some NGOs to save people at sea. I'm wondering if there is any rule that prevents member states or a government to finance NGOs who operate in the central Mediterranean. And the second question, if I may, I forgot this one. So basically, thank you.
It's Monday morning. We are all at the same stage. Perhaps it'll come later. Anita.
Thank you, David. It is for the member states to reply. I'm not aware of any prohibition to member states on this.
Second question.
Yes, second question. Thank you for your understanding, Rick. The Italian government has introduced a financial guarantee of almost 5,000 euro for asylum seeker to avoid detention. This is according to the a directive by the EU. This is foreseen, but I'm wondering if this amount, almost 5,000 euro, is proportional to the objective of avoiding seconding. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Indeed, we are aware of the report on the financial guarantees. We're in touch with the Italian authorities to find out more. But indeed, what I can tell you about our UAKID, our legal framework, we have in the reception conditions directive, but also in the return directive, that provides for certain obligations, such as regular reporting, but also the deposit of financial guarantees. Now, in terms of the proportionality as such, we need to have all these decisions need to be done on an individual assessment. So all these alternative measures to detention must meet the proportionality test.
Thank you. Any other questions on migration for Anita? Wait.
Yes, Marco Bresolini, La Stampa. It's a follow-up on this. So you said that it should be also the financial guarantee case by case. I mean, so there should not be an amount equal for everyone. I mean, the amount should be decided case by case. Is it correct, what I understand?
Indeed. It is important to have the right safeguards to ensure that, and again, this needs to be decided on an individual assessment.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there other questions for Anita? I see one hand raised in the chat. Since it's the only hand raised for the moment, and in view of the short time available, we will move to that. Hussein.
Representative in Tunisia announced last week that an EU delegation will visit Tunisia this week. Do we have a date or a schedule for the meetings and the topics? Thank you.
Thanks. I'm not aware of a date, but Anna will tell us what she can.
Many thanks. So what I can tell you is that the mission will take place later this week. It's a mission of Commission officials, and the discussions will focus on the implementation of the MOU, broadly speaking, and also in particular to priority actions.
Thank you. That's all we can say on this visit for the moment. Any other questions for Anna while she is on the podium? That is not the case. Thank you very much. Yes, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Lyubov Pronina from Bloomberg News. I have an agriculture question. Has the Commission finalized its comments on the Ukrainian proposals for the grain control? Thank you.
Olaf.
And if you can share details.
Thank you for your question. So I can confirm that the Commission's comments on the Ukraine Action Plan were sent last Friday, and they will be discussed at the coordination platform taking place this Thursday.
That's all we can say for the moment. We reserve the gist of that for the discussion at the coordination platform. Any other questions for Olaf on this or other issues while he's on the podium? No, so that was a very clean start. Congratulations. I'm sure you'll have more difficult days. Yes, let's move on to other issues.
Thank you, Eric. I have a question for Peter Stan on the events in Kosovo and related to Kosovo and Serbia. President of Serbia yesterday said that there is only one person who is responsible for what happened there, and that's Kosovo Prime Minister Kurti. Until recently, this was more or less opinion of European Union as well, maybe expressed differently, but do you still maintain that Serbia has done everything to reduce the tension in the north, while Kosovo has not done enough? Because for now, for almost 4 months, it's only Kosovo that is sanctioned by European Union with measures, and Serbia is not. So And related to that, apart from the events yesterday, there were attacks on soldiers of KFOR on media 4 months ago. And some EU officials even admitted that identity of the attackers is known. Are you satisfied with the cooperation of Serbia to bring to justice those responsible? Thank you.
Thank you, Augustin. Thank you for all these questions. Well, I mean, most of the answers are already included in what we said previously, most importantly in the EU 27 statement from last week, where the EU was very clearly outlining the expectations when it comes to the dialogue, and also when it comes to the very, very tense and dangerous situation actually in the north of Kosovo, and the latest developments only underline the need to take urgent steps for the escalation. On the specific events yesterday, again, I don't need to repeat the strongest condemnation by the European Union of the terrorist hideous attack that happened against the Kosovo police members, and what High Representative said in his statement and in the phone calls he had with both Prime Minister Kurti and Prime Minister Vučić. But again, this all only underlines what the EU has been saying all along. We need to find the way out of the constant crises and go back to normal problem solving through the dialogue. Because the de-escalation is urgently needed, and it was underlined, the need for de-escalation was underlined in a very painful way already yesterday, and days before, and weeks before, and even months before. So EU was very clear when it comes to expectations from one side and the other, what they have to do in order to contribute to de-escalation and embark finally on a path of normal dialogue, when we don't have to deal with crises and dangerous crises like we see now, but when we can help them both to move forward towards the reconciliation and normalization.
Augustin, follow-up?
Yes. I mean, I guess that you follow the press conferences of President of Serbia yesterday and his speech in the UN. He accused those countries who recognized Kosovo, and that's 22 EU member states including, for aggression towards Serbia, and compared them to the Russian aggression on Ukraine. So after those statements, do you still insist that there is agreement reached in the dialogue which Serbia accepted? Because with his words and with his behavior, Serbia and President of Serbia are proving that they didn't agree on what you claimed that they agreed.
Again, I don't think it's for the press room and in discussions in the media to engage with what the President of Serbia is saying or what the Prime Minister of Kosovo is saying. The European Union's position is very clear. The EU is a facilitator of the dialogue between the two of them. They both want to eventually join the European Union. Their path towards the European Union goes through the EU-facilitated dialogue. The expectations, the modalities, and the attitudes of the European Union as the facilitator have been formulated many times, most recently very clearly in the statement by 27 member states from last week. There is nothing I could add from here to what was so clearly stated by 27 member states in their message to both Serbia and Kosovo, how they have to behave and what they need to do in order to fulfill their ambition and strategic priority to enter the European Union one day.
Okay, I'll take one last question on this issue.
Referring to the EU27 statement from last week, there was a clear reference that EU is still considering measures against parties in case needed. Given yesterday's tragic events, which Mr. Borrell qualified them as terrorist attack and as aggression, is now EU considering introducing measures against Serbia, having in mind that even EU publicly says that Serbia controls the structures in the north, and given that the EU was very efficient by introducing measures to Kosovo now, is this a possibility that you are considering?
Thank you. Two things. One, about the events yesterday, the investigation is still going on. There is still ongoing clarification of all the facts and details behind these terrorist attacks. And behind the facts and culprits are clearly established, identified. We will refrain from commenting on particular developments yesterday. But on the other hand, on the second part of your question, the European Union has a very clear position. the measures introduced against Kosovo, and again, these are not sanctions as we are using sanctions in the EU terminology. There is no sanctions framework. There is no framework for restrictive measures. It's measures, not restrictive measures. It's measures the EU took in response to the inability of one side to comply with the expectations to de-escalate. We said right from the start, the European Union was very clear right from the start, including EU 27 member states, that these measures are temporary and they can be either decreased, responding to developments on the ground, or increased. Currently, they've been applied on Kosovo, and the EU was very clear that if the member states see the reason, they will also apply on Serbia.
Lisa, is it on this? I'm not going to take 100 questions on the issue because Peter is repeating things we've said 100 times here on the podium, and we have little time today. So, Lisa.
It's on Kosovo, but it's not on the same question. Can you give us any details on the actual the ULEX operation in Kosovo, and are any ULEX staff up in the area of the shootout yesterday? Just to give us an idea of what's happening on the ground there today. Thank you.
Well, we are not the ones who should be giving information about what is going on the ground. I can tell you what ULEX is meant to do, and ULEX, by definition, is part of the security architecture of Kosovo as a second security responder after Kosovo security forces. The Kosovo police is the first security responder. ULEX is always there to support upon request from Kosovo police, but it's Kosovo police who has the authority to inform about what is going on, and we have a supporting role as the second security responder. And we are on the ground. I mean, obviously, the mission is based in Kosovo. We were also, and we remain to be present through ULEX on the scene, and we are there assisting the Kosovo police on their request, providing the necessary assistance, and we continue follow the developments and be of any assistance that is requested from us.
Okay, I'm going to move on to other foreign affairs issues in view of time. If you have other questions on other issues on foreign affairs, of course, Peter remains available bilaterally for on-the-record comments as well. On another foreign affairs issue, not on this. Go ahead.
Oui, Olivier Baube de l'AFP. Just a quick question again on Kosovo. I'm sorry about it, but I just want to know if Mr. Borrell plans to have another meeting with the party, will ask the parties to meet again in Brussels soon, or?
Eventually, yes. This is part of the dialogue that he invites them to Brussels for high-level meeting when appropriate.
Okay, that's it on Kosovo. Now, any other foreign affairs issues for Peter? No, I have Juric or Tamara, sorry. I'm not quite sure. There are so many names, but I suspect it's on this as well. Please ask your question if it's on something else for Peter or for Nabila on foreign affairs. If not, please don't raise your hand.
Yes, it's also about Kosovo.
No, sorry, let's do this bilaterally afterwards. Okay, I see no further questions on foreign affairs for Peter. Anything for Nabila? No. Then let me move on to other EU issues. Any other questions for us today? Suniva.
Just to know if the Commission is going to send representatives to India this week to discuss the upcoming G7 ban on Russian diamonds. I was just wondering if you could confirm if any Commission officials are involved and who they'd be meeting. Thank you.
I look to Dan, who seems a bit perplexed, so he will investigate and come back to you on that. Any other questions for Dan on sanctions? That is not the case. Any other issue for us today before we move on to the statement in the VIP corner? No, so thank you very much for your attention. And again, I encourage you to follow the statement by the Commissioner Vălean and the Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine now. Thank you very much.